All right. Hi, and welcome to the last OpenLearning Basics workshop for this year. So my name is Atika. Most of you already know me, and I am one of the trainers for today's session. So joining me today is one of my colleagues as well. He's joining all the way from Australia, so he will be one of our guest speaker for today. So maybe you want to say hi, Sean?
Hello, how's it going? Thanks for introducing me. Yeah, so I'm a learning designer
sorry,
with.
I don't think I can hear you.
Oh, okay.
Can everyone else hear Sean? Oh no, can't hear you. Oh, Annalisa said she can hear you. Maybe it's me.
Okay.
Yeah. All right.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, it's
okay.
me.
Great. Okay, so yeah, so I'm a learning designer with OpenLearning, but yeah, I'm in Sydney. So I'm it's midday for me, so it's probably a bit later for me than you. But yeah, so Attica reached out to me a few days ago to sort of be a guest speaker in this. So I hope what I share today is helpful. But yeah, it'll be enjoyable. So do you want me to hand it back to you, Attica, and then I can I've got a bit of a presentation to give, but I can go through that whenever you'd like. So yep.
Yeah, sure. I think we're going to start a bit of with welcoming activity, and
Great.
I'll pass it back to you.
Great. Okay, sounds good.
All right. Okay. So so before we get into the activity, so a little bit to start. Most of you already know that this workshop is part of the Ambassador Program series. So for this workshop, this is the last workshop, and we will be diving more into the facilitation aspects. So Sean is here to help me in explaining to you how you can facilitate your course more by showing some examples that he has created for the course that he's running. So so for those of you who are interested in the OpenLearning Ambassador Program, feel free to join in the other 4 courses so that you can earn your badges. So we have 3 badges for you to collect: the course designer badge, the course assessment designer badge, and also the course facilitator badge. So once you get all these badges, you will receive your ambassador certificate as well. So, most of you already know that this program is created because we know how most of you have dedicated your experiences to creating a good quality online courses. So we wanted to basically value that passion and determination for you to teach others on how to create the courses, and we wanted to acknowledge this. This is why we open up this workshop. We wanted you to get certified for free because we want to create that large community of online creators, not just for OpenLearning, but for any other platform as well. Because all of this information that you have learned throughout the Ambassador Program, you can actually use this, transfer this to other platforms as well, especially for this facilitation program. It's not just for the OpenLearning platform. You can actually use this on any other platforms that you may use as well. Okay. All right. So if you have any other questions regarding the Ambassador Program, feel free to maybe if you want to know more, you can just email us, or even if you want to know a bit about the badges and the whole program, what the other courses there are, you can just go to the Ambassador Program page, which I am sharing on the chat page here. Okay. All right. So let's get started to the workshop. So let me just share you the workshop, the course page first. Okay, so feel free to go into the page, the course if you haven't done that yet. So most of you, I think some of you already went into the course already and get a head start. So feel free to go into the course and get started. So we can get started. So of course, this workshop is a blended workshop. Therefore, you need to join and participate the activities in order to complete the workshop. So you need to okay. So you have to complete everything, and there is a part that will be looked at for your ambassador submissions. Okay. All right. Okay. Let's see. Let me just share my screen so we can get started with the activity first. Share screen. Okay. All right. Can everybody see my screen? Okay. All right. Thanks, Annalisa. Okay, so for the before we start going into the deep end, let's start simple. So welcome to the course, to the 5th and final workshop of the series. In this workshop, we will identify the roles and responsibility of an online facilitator and introduce you to various facilitation techniques to establish and cultivate a learning community in your online course. So other than that, you will be introduced to a range of communication strategies to establish and cultivate a learning community. Okay. So for this workshop, we'll be looking mainly into how to facilitate your online course, and we have Sean as well to help expand that that content later on. Okay. Okay. So before we dive into that, let's do a little bit of ice-breaking activity. You always know that we always have an ice-breaking activity. So here's for our workshop today. So the activity is, how many masks are you wearing? So before we start, we want to get to know you a little bit. But instead of just the basics of knowing your name and where you are from, we want to know how many masks are you wearing? So this is related to a bit to the topic. So must here refers to the role you hold either at work, at home, or school or college if you're still a student. So here's an example. The mask that I am wearing. So I'm wearing 4 masks. I'm an employee where I need to be a project manager for myself, prepping my task. I'm also a doctor. I am my parents' doctor, of course. Well, this is not me. Some of you might be a wife, so I am a best friend and soulmate to my husband. I'm a mother. I am a firm and caring mother to my son. So these are some of this is an example of one person's mask. So they have 4 masks, which is an employer, a daughter, a wife, and a mother. So how many masks are you wearing? So feel free to share this this in the comment section below. You can see how other people have shared their masks. So you can see some have 3, some have 4. Angie here has 6 masks. This is not 4. So this is way more than 4. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So he identified as a geek as well. Eugene and a gamer. So yeah, put in as many masks as you think you have. Those are like your personalities, which you have. So feel free to put in as many as you can think of. And put it in the comment section over here, okay? you can also see like some of you guys got really creative, putting you're a chef, you're a traveler, you're an explorer. So these are, if you identify these as yourself, put it in. Even if you're not like a professional chef, you are a chef to your own little family. That's kind of correct as well. So yes, put it in. Okay, let's see. Gonna okay. Don't think too much, guys. Just take it easy. If you think of how many, just put in how much the mask that you think you have. Don't worry too much. Okay, we have Lai Singh here. It says, I am wearing a few masks. You're wearing a sun mask. You're a son of your parents. You're a traveler. Where you like to explore new places, and you're also a learner to the OpenLearning Basics Workshop series. I like that. So yeah, I think you have a few more, but yeah, this is good. Okay, let's see how many more you guys. Oh, we have. Hey, Sean also participate. I wear a lot of masks like Eugene. I'm a gamer and a geek. So those are two masks. I am both a teacher and learner, and I often like to do both things at the same time. Yes, I'm definitely the same as Sean. While I'm also a teacher or facilitator, I'm also the learner, where I learn from my learners as well. Okay, and then we have Nadia. We're multiple masks. Where do I begin? Okay, so the key ones that she's a learner who consistently learns to improve herself and be better. You're a team player at work and with my family. You're an uncertified doctor, a nurse for my children. And you're a multitasker and juggler of life and work and everything in between. I like this, Nadia. Very nice. Okay. I think let's see if there's more new ones. Okay. All right. Let's go to next part then. Feel free to still comment and put in your mask even after this. Okay. Don't worry. All right. So the next part is under delivery and facilitation, but I don't want to get into this just yet. So I'm going to pass this to Sean, who will enlighten you guys on the facilitation part. Take it away, Sean.
Okay, yeah. So what I might do is I'll share, because I've put together a bit of a presentation. So I'll share my screen now if that's okay.
Yes.
Okay, let me just set it up. Okay, can everyone see my screen?
Yes.
Okay, great. Okay, so yeah, so I am going to be taking you through a bit of a presentation I've got. I will be showing you some bits from courses, but I've really included them as screenshots. So I'll be really sticking to inside this presentation. And it's called, so I've called it Facilitating Online Learning. But I probably should point out at the start that, so I'm a learning designer. So I will often be designing courses usually through OpenLearning. But it's important to note that so I'm not a facilitator, but whenever I'm designing learning experiences like an entire course or just an individual experience, I'm always thinking about how that will be facilitated. And in some cases we have courses where there are no facilitators, but in some cases in most cases we have that there are facilitators, and I'm always thinking about that. So that's what I'm going to be talking about basically today. So as a learning designer, how you can approach online learning as an alternative to or to complement face-to-face learning, and specifically I'm going to focus on how those two kinds of learning, online learning and classroom-based learning, are facilitated differently, and how those differences between those two are important. Because if you're going to design engaging learning experiences, you need to think about how the person or the people who are helping the class, how they're going to fit into the picture, whether you call them a guide or a teacher or a coach or a facilitator. So I have divided my talk into 3 sections. So first, I'm going to just talk about the differences between online learning and classroom-based learning, and the differences in the two environments, I guess. Then I'll move on to some basic principles when designing for online learning, or perhaps hybrid learning, where it's a hybrid of online and face-to-face. And for this part, I'll just talk about some of the basic ideas that you might find helpful, particularly if you are new to designing online learning, and if your experience is with traditional classroom-based learning. But then lastly, I'll then move on to the really juicy stuff where it's about designing online learning, but going beyond the basics and looking at how a learning designer can help to create a good learning space and a good learning community, which the facilitator will then help, and how the facilitator will help that. So to start with, I'll talk about the differences between online learning and classroom-based learning. And to do that, I want to start by asking you to consider 2 different ways that we just generally interact with other people within our family or our friends or our social circle. First, what is it like when interacting with people in a physical setting, so like going to the movies or going out to dinner? And how does that compare when interacting on a social media platform like Facebook? So I'm not talking about online learning, I'm talking about online social interaction. So Facebook, things like that. So what are the differences between these two? A social interaction physically and a social interaction in a social media platform. So I'd argue there are a few key differences here. For me, 3 of the most immediate ones, the most immediate differences are, firstly, that the difference between synchronous and asynchronous. So a face-to-face social interaction is about sharing physical space, but it's also about sharing time. So if you go out to dinner with some friends, the interaction, it's all about the time from when you meet at the restaurant until when you go home. You're sharing the time with those friends all at the same time, from the beginning of that event to the end of that event. So it's what we call synchronous. In comparison, interacting in social media happens on a timeline that isn't necessarily linear and is generally asynchronous. So for example, you might post a photo of a new puppy that you just adopted. You might post a photo of that on Facebook. But instead of having an interaction around that happy event at that point in time, then and there, you might find that you get likes and comments over a long time frame. You might respond to other people's responses in your own time. So all up, the conversation about that new puppy might take place over weeks or months. It's generally what we call asynchronous. The second key difference I see between a physical social interaction and an online social interaction, the difference, it's similar to the first, it's that sharing in face-to-face interactions is really about sharing the moment in physical space. So you can enjoy a joke or a story with a friend or watch a movie together, and that's how you share. You share it in that moment together. Now, in comparison, virtual spaces, virtual spaces, they might seem less real than physical spaces, but actually sharing in virtual spaces is often more permanent. So a post on Facebook or a comment on that post, it's there forever. That's what makes that asynchronous interaction that I was just talking about. That's what makes that work. It's less about laughing at a joke that someone just told you sitting in front of you, and more about turning a joke that someone might have told you from the other side of the globe into a meme that you can share again, or even add to or reinterpret or repurpose elsewhere in that virtual platform, whether it's Facebook or whatever it might be. That's how memes spread. So sharing in the virtual space and sharing in a physical space are very different. And then lastly, the last difference, the third key difference between physical interaction and online interaction is how the environment impacts the quality of the interaction. Now, by the environment, what I mean there is, if I'm going out to dinner with some friends, then really the only main thing that's likely to ruin the dinner for me is if the food is bad or the service is bad. So that's part of the environment in that case. But in a social media platform, the environment's a bit more complex and there are a lot more things to consider. So does the user experience of the platform make it easy to participate? Can I even find my friends in this platform so that I can interact with them? Do people tend to log on and interact often enough so that it's even worthwhile? What's the tone of the entire community? Not just a conversation between me and a friend online, but the whole platform. There's been a lot of conversation around what the tone of conversations like on Facebook relative to Twitter, relative to Reddit and various subreddits and so on. That each of those communities has its own tone. That's part of its environment. It's how people interact and how they behave in that environment. So the environment and how that feeds into the interaction is an important difference between sharing in a physical space and sharing in an online space. So yeah, so the key differences are, as I see, one, interacting in an online space tends to be asynchronous, happens over time, as opposed to the synchronous face-to-face interactions in a classroom. Second, when we share in an online space, we do so, generally speaking, we do so by posting things, whether it's a comment or a picture or a video, and that's where they stay. So others can see them and respond to them, interact with them and build on them. And then thirdly, the quality of an online space is determined by how that space is designed and how the entire community in that space behaves and interacts. So those are, I'd say, the three key differences between sharing in a physical space versus sharing in an online space. So where am I going with this? Well, I'm not here to talk about Facebook or Twitter or anything like that. Everything I was just talking about is about social media, I guess, but it's really to sort of draw that distinction between physical and online space. But I'm here to talk about, obviously, online learning. And so the big thing to note before we go into the details is that online spaces are different to face-to-face spaces. And so you need to consider, when you're thinking about learning now, you need to consider questions like, how am I going to get learners to interact with one another, given that they won't be in the same room at the same time? How can I leverage the fact that online spaces are repositories of content and information? And by that, I don't just mean textbook information provided by the teacher. I mean all the information, all the content that even learners themselves will post to that space. And how do I design an online learning experience and learning space that, with the help of the facilitator, will encourage constructive interaction and effective learning? So throughout the rest of this talk, I'm going to show you a few examples from a pathway program that we created for a university. The pathway program that we created, it consists of a number of different courses. So I'm going to show you a few examples from different courses in the program. But the entire program is completed online. Now, we designed and built it in OpenLearning, but it doesn't have to be. The different elements that I'm going to be talking about could apply to any kind of online learning experience. The idea being that I'm just going to talk about, like I've been talking about so far, the nature of online learning, not just in any particular platform. So so here's just one example. I'll share more later, but this is just to give you a bit of an idea. So this activity that I'm showing you here, it came from a computing course within that pathway program. This course was largely based on a programming language called Python. And specifically in this activity, learners are looking at a tool within Python called Turtle. So the idea being that Python's a coding language, a programming language, but Turtle is a tool that uses that code to draw pictures, depending on what code you write. So in this activity, we got learners to use the tool, so use that Turtle tool to draw an image. It could be any image they want, and we've got a few examples on the right here, and then post it to the rest of the class. So the idea being that they post it like you might post a photo or something in social media. We've got them to post the pictures that they've drawn. Now, the key here is that students couldn't see each other's code. All they could see was what each other posted, and they just posted the picture. So students could see the pictures that others made, but they didn't know how they made them with code. So the second part of the activity was then challenging each student to see if they could recreate each other's pictures. So we've got one there that's, for example, a love heart. And so someone might see that and say, well, okay, I can see that someone else has made that. I don't know how they made it. I'm going to see if I can make it as well. And if they can reply to that person. They can post their own version of the image as a response. And then those two students might then compare how they went about creating that picture. So the point is that this is what interaction can look like in online learning. Okay, so for the second section, let's say you have a classroom-based course to begin with, and you either want to convert it to an online course, or at least have the course be a hybrid of classroom and online-based learning. So let's say so for this section, I'm really imagining, let's say you're possibly new to online learning, and you just want to get an idea of how the facilitation will be different if you're thinking about converting that to online or partially online. So what are some design patterns and principles that will help here, particularly in thinking about how to facilitate those two kinds of learning? And to start with, I'll just say that the three differences between the spaces are probably some of the first things you want to consider. But yeah, so I'm just going to start with some basic ideas, just looking at some of the immediate logistics of facilitation in online learning. In the third and final section of this talk, I'll then move on to the more advanced stuff in creating true learning communities online. So the first thing is to take into account the three key differences I just mentioned. So synchronous versus asynchronous, virtual space versus physical space, and thinking about the environment that the interaction is going to take place in. So it's about creating a space where learners can play, practice, experiment, and share their work. And on that, I'll say, in a classroom environment, there's often a separation between where learners practice, so which they might do during a classroom tutorial, and how learners submit their work, which they might do by working alone on their homework and maybe handing in an assignment to the teacher, for example. There doesn't have to be a separation, but there often is. The space where you practice and the space where you submit work are different. In an online environment, this separation often doesn't exist. So a good learning designer will think about the learning space as much as the learning activities, because the online space where the learners have logged into the side of the platform, that's where they can both engage in formative learning experiences as well as submitting their work for more sort of summative assessment. So it's not just about one or the other. It's not just about submitting work. It's about sharing things. That's what the online space is about. Sharing ideas and plans along the way, sharing the attempts that you make at different problems, sharing feedback with others on their own attempts. And then, yes, also submitting assignments and other sorts of summative assessment. The idea is the facilitator will also be in this space the whole time, interacting with the learners, but also reviewing what the learners are doing, how they're interacting with one another, and assessing the learners if needed, or providing guidance where necessary. It's all done within the one space. So for example, here is an activity from the accounting course in that pathway program I mentioned. So in this activity, the goal was for learners to practice using something we call the T format of an account. So we got the class to come up with different ideas for businesses and some transactions those businesses might engage in. And then each student was asked to pick one business and then try to accurately record the transaction in the proper account. Now, in a classroom, the teacher might show the class an example, and then students might try their own example and then ask the teacher if they have a problem. Or if it happens to be an accessible task, the student might write it and actually hand it in. But in this program, the course was itself a space for learners to do it all. It was a space for them to share ideas on businesses, to pick one of these and to post what they think it looks like once the relevant transactions have been posted. And they can respond to others' posts. So this kind of interaction can help the learners learn from one another, which I'll talk more about later. But more immediately, the idea is that we've given them a space to share, and the facilitator is there with them, can see what everyone has shared, and they can provide guidance where necessary. They can comment on each other on a post, or they can provide more formal assessment if the work is if that's necessary. So that's the first thing to think about as a learning designer. How do you create a space for the learners to share, to play, to practice? Not just what tasks they need to complete, but how do they share their work on those tasks in that learning space? So the second basic learning design pattern to consider for online learning is to consider providing room for synchronous learning. So this can be particularly helpful and important if you're just venturing into online learning. If you have experience designing and teaching in classroom-based learning, then you might make the transition into online learning easier by creating a routine where the class and the facilitator share time, if not physical space, to learn together. So for example, in the mathematics course, in the pathway program that we created, the university that we worked with wanted to ensure that the course still provided enough practice and instruction to the learners, as mathematics can be one of those subjects where students might need to spend more time in more traditional learning models, like being shown by the teacher how to think about and how to solve a certain problem, and to get feedback on how they've solved similar problems. So what we did is we got the students to submit practice work each week, as I'm shown here. The teacher then used what they submitted to get a sense of which areas the students are struggling with, and then they held several Zoom Q&A sessions each week to go over these challenging areas with the class. So the point here is that this is modeled from a classroom environment. It's just done remotely. So this sort of thing can be really helpful if you're creating a hybrid learning or looking for a smooth transition from classroom-based learning. I know I said at the start that online learning tends to be asynchronous, whereas classroom-based learning tends to be synchronous. But if you are looking for a stepping stone, creating this kind of synchronous learning in online is possible and can be a good part of the learning design. Okay, so that's some of the basics. But for the final part of this talk, I'll move beyond the basics and talk about creating a quality online learning space and experience and community with the help of the facilitator. So far, I've talked about what you might call the basics. So to start with, some of the key differences between online learning and classroom-based learning, and some of the things you need to think about as a learning designer when designing learning for online facilitation. Now, hopefully everything I've said so far is fairly intuitive even if you're new to it. But for the rest of my time, I'd like to talk about taking it to the next level. Because here at OpenLearning, our pedagogical philosophy is one of online social learning. The learning design patterns and the role of the facilitator in this kind of learning are potentially very different to classroom-based learning. So far I've talked about some of the differences between online and classroom-based. I've talked about how that can then impact the design of the learning space without it being necessarily that different to classroom-based. But now I'm going to really focus on the social learning aspects and the key that really brings about some key differences in the role of the facilitator. So yes, I'm going to finish up talking about three things. One, what is a facilitator as opposed to a teacher in a learning environment? Two, what are some design patterns for social learning activities? And lastly, what is the role of the facilitator in these activities in this environment? So first up, what is a facilitator? Well, in a traditional classroom model, a teacher stands at the front of the class and transfers knowledge to the student. This might be by simply talking about things, facts, dates, events, and so on, or it might be showing the class examples of how to perform some task, whether that's solving an equation or writing an essay introduction. But transfer of knowledge and skills in this way tends to lead to what we call surface learning. It encourages the student to try to just remember facts or to copy a technique or to practice a skill. Now, remembering facts and practicing skills is very important, but they aren't usually what we call deep learning. When we talk about a facilitator, we talk about someone who truly facilitates the learning. In an online space, there is no front of the class. The facilitator isn't responsible for transferring knowledge. They're responsible for using the learning space and the learning activities to inspire and guide the learners. They impact the tone of the very learning community. To bring it back to the social media analogy I was talking about earlier, the facilitator can mean the difference between a healthy subreddit or a very toxic one. Their expertise can still come in vital, but not because they just transfer knowledge, not because they tell students facts and figures, but because their expertise can help them be a better guide. The idea is the activities themselves should help the learners discover the facts and figures, and the facilitator is more of a guide to help them through that experience, help them through that learning activity. So in this example here, which I've just shown a very small part of a conversation, this is not from the Pathway program that I have, for the other examples have come from, but it's from a computer science course where we created an activity where we got learners to try to describe cooking recipes in a way that was completely unambiguous. And the idea of the activity is that that's actually very, very hard to do. You can't, every recipe is going to involve some kind of ambiguity, some kind of interpretation. So it's virtually impossible to create a recipe that's unambiguous. Now, in this conversation, the facilitators in this course, they gently prod the recipes. They try to find holes in them. They try to have a bit of fun as they went along the way, try to sort of show how the recipes could be interpreted in weird ways that would create havoc in the kitchen. Much like a programmer, debugger might find holes in a computer program. So the point is the facilitator is not teaching the course. They're there providing guidance through the activities. So speaking of that, what kind of learning activities with guidance and inspiration from the facilitator can promote deeper learning? I've gone over a few examples from the Pathways program that I mentioned, and I've just shown another example from a different course. And now I'll just show you two more. On the left here, we have one of the courses in the program was on digital graphic design. So looking at things like Photoshop and InDesign. Now, at several points during the course, we got the class to take part in what we call Photoshop battles. And that's where everyone's encouraged to share a photo and then challenge others to Photoshop them in funny or quirky ways. Now, that's obviously a good opportunity for them to hone their Photoshop skills because it actually does take skill to do that. And so it is relevant to the Photoshop skills that they're learning. But there's actually a more important learning design pattern going on here. We're crafting a communal space to encourage learners to have some fun and to share ideas with one another while laughing about it. And with enough of these, the tone of the community can transform from one that's like a boring tutorial that students have to go to meet their attendance requirements, to one where students want to log in because they want to see what's happening and they want to get involved. Another example that we used in the mathematics course in the program, we got students to come up with their own problem sets. So for example, in this one I'm showing here, once they've mastered the basics of trigonometry, we got them to create their own trig problems and then challenge each other to solve them. So solving trig problems might not be quite as fun as a Photoshop battle, but it still invites the learners to play a proactive role in the community and in their own learning. So what role does the facilitator play in activities like this one and in others? Well, a quote that I quite like is, education is not the filling of a pail, but the lighting of a fire. So in those two examples I just showed, and in lots of others, the idea is the facilitator doesn't just give the right answers. They don't teach the content in the first place, and they don't give the right answers after the learners have tried. They just get involved. So for example, in the Photoshop battles, in the Photoshop course, the facilitators tried their own Photoshop battles. They actually got some of the photos that the students had shared and actually tried to do them themselves. In other cases where the students had tried, they liked the ones that they enjoyed. They actually clicked like on them, maybe commented on a few of them to sort of say which techniques they liked. And if they saw examples where the learners, maybe tried something out, but it didn't really work, then they might be able to say, well, maybe you could try this. The point is that as well as being that expert and providing that guidance, really the underlying current here is that the facilitators were actually setting the tone for the community. By the idea of the activity is that it's meant to be a bit of fun. And so the role of the facilitator in this and lots of other examples is to encourage that fun and encourage that healthy tone, to set the tone around this activity and around the entire course. The same thing with the example on the right. So it's a bit more technical, it's maths, it's a bit mathsy, possibly less fun, but it's the idea being that they're creating challenges for one another. So one student might create a problem and then challenge others to try and solve it. The facilitator in this instance, again, might even try to solve a few of themselves. So if a student comes up with a really interesting problem, they might try to solve it themselves. And again, look at the solutions that others have come up with, give them encouragement, encourage them to maybe try connect solutions that different students have tried and get them talking to one another and comparing their approaches, liking the ones that they like and which they think are good. And again, if they need to give some guidance, for example, if especially if it's mathematics, sometimes it is a bit black and white. If students are going down a wrong path, then steering them towards maybe some other techniques they could use to help solve the problem. So really, I guess the upshot is the facilitator looks for opportunities to lift the community, to help the learners to work together, to figure it out. Because it's in that process, the working together to figure it out, that's where the learners really truly learn. So that's the role of the facilitator. So yeah, thank you very much. I'll stop sharing now. Thanks.
Thank you so much, Sean. That is really good examples, and this would be great for you guys to take an idea on how to use it into your course as well. So a lot of the examples that Sean has given are really great examples for you to facilitate your course, on how you can approach your course, even if it's not an online course, even if it's a hybrid course, and even physical classes as well. This doesn't just it isn't a rule set for an online course, but it works much better for an online course where you can it goes beyond borders. You can see how fun all of the activities are. It doesn't have to be like a boring activity. Facilitation doesn't have to be a boring task. It can be something fun. And as Sean mentioned, facilitation also are like you can try it yourself, even within the activities where there's a challenge. You can participate in the activity itself and try it yourself. Be part of the learners, not just like giving the knowledge, but also learn with the learners themselves. And I feel like that is a very good example. And we can actually try to use this nearly for everyday day-to-day situation as well, not just for classes, right? So yeah, thank you so much, Sean, for this. Actually, all of the topics that Sean touched, Sean mentioned just now, we are actually going to touch this in the pages, in the coming pages. So if you remember what he says, that's really good, because you can actually put it down and try it on your own, the ideas that he has shared with you guys. All right. Okay. Thank you again, Sean. If you need to leave, you can. But if you want to stay, feel free to do so and participate with us.
I might head off, but yeah, thank you everyone for your time, and yeah, so it's I hope it helped. Yeah, so I mean, I guess, yeah, if I could leave a parting message, it's, I know that I didn't talk too much about facilitation directly, but the idea is that, especially in online, it's the activities and the space itself that should help craft the experience. And the facilitator is not there to teach. The facilitator is just there to, through the activities, create the encourage through the community. So it's really, it starts with the environment and the experience and activities. So, and then the facilitator then really just finesses that and hones that into a healthy community. So yeah, that's, I'll leave you with that. I'll head off.
Yes, thank you, Sean.
Thanks.
All right. Okay. So yeah, definitely. You can think about what Sean has shared just now, and we'll be going through them a little bit in depth in the coming pages. Okay. All right. So in this session actually is very kind of hands-on. We have a lot of activities in every pages. We have a lot of activities. So if you remember what Sean said, it could help you in doing the activities. Okay, let me share back my screen. Okay, can you guys see the screen? I'm sharing the right screen. Okay, you're seeing the delivery versus facilitation screen, right? Okay. Okay. All right. So as I mentioned, facilitation. Well, as Sean has mentioned, facilitation is not just about facilitating just the content of the or content and the course itself. It's more than that. It's you are basically finessing the course with more than just giving out knowledge. Okay, so so we are going to touch a bit about what's delivery versus facilitation. Okay, so for that, let's talk about, does your brain have a USB port? So have you ever heard someone talk about the idea that in the future we'll be able to have microchips implanted in the heads that give us knowledge? So we will be able to plug them into our heads and learn how to speak French in 5 seconds, the way we plug a USB thumbstick into the computer to copy over a PDF document. Or have you seen the film Matrix? The Matrix, in which they load information directly into the brains of people. So do you think that our brain works like that? Okay, so if you think like that, I want to meet you. Yeah, so let's watch this video. I think I didn't share my audio. Okay, so let's watch this video by futurist Matthew Kaku, where he explains a bit of can you become a karate master by pushing just one.
We all saw the movie The Matrix, where you simply jack in a program into our brain and bingo, we are karate masters. Bingo, we know how to drive a helicopter. Can we do that now or maybe in the near future? And the answer is probably not, because the brain is not really a computer. It doesn't process digital information. Our brain is a learning machine. It learns by itself to correct its previous mistakes. While your laptop today is just as stupid today as it was yesterday, your laptop doesn't learn. Our brain has no windows, it has no software, it has no programming, but it simply learns tasks as it goes along. Therefore, the interface between digital information and memory is quite complicated. These are, in some sense, two operating systems. So eventually we may master that ability, but we have to reverse engineer the brain. And that's going to take many decades. So don't expect to become a karate master anytime soon by simply pushing a button.
Okay. What do you get from that? So spoilers, you can't become a karate master just by pushing a button. As much as we all want to blend all our books and drink it and get all the knowledge, unfortunately we can't, because that's not how we learn. So there are some people who have memories, like you can just look and they can remember what it is for every page, on which paragraph, which sentence it is. And not everyone are like that. Okay, but that's the fun part of learning. That's we have to remember that that's a lot of people. That's how a lot of people learn. They have to go through experiments, go through several kinds of activity in order to make the information stronger. It's not just a one-time thing where you just give them a note and then they suddenly understand. So if you gave like a math explanation, and suddenly everybody understand. So you can't expect your learners to be that way. So you have to understand that these are a learning process, keyword process, where it needs some time, some steps in order for people to understand what it is. So take a minute to think about that and feel how have you been facilitating and conducting your class. Okay, all right. So what does the video have to do with delivery and facilitation, right? So if we think of this idea as a form of educational practice, it's right on the extreme end of the idea of delivery of information. The student has the brain, the information was delivered, done. You're a master of karate. So, but as Kaku explained in the video, our brains doesn't work like that. However, it is surprising how closely to this point on the scale of facilitation to delivery of knowledge, many of our educational institutions operate for much of the time. For example, the lecture. This is actually quite similar to the idea of uploading a program to the brain, except this time the information is uploaded via words and PowerPoint slides. So as I mentioned, our brain doesn't work like that, but a lot of us have misunderstood that. A lot of has misunderstood that when we give a certain certain information to our learners, they automatically understand it right there and then. Okay, so think back about that, and maybe after this workshop, you can rearrange and come back with how you design your activities and classes. Okay, so now let's talk about the delivery and facilitation for you. So in this activity, we're going to recall some educational experiences we've been involved in, either great or bad, informal or formal, or as a student or an educator. I want them to share with other participants here, and then see if we can identify where they might lay along the scale of facility or facilitation or delivery. Okay, so what I need you to do first is to recall, to think back to an educational experience. It doesn't need to be a school. It could be when you were a child, as an adult, as a student, or a teacher. The important thing is that you either learned something or you didn't. Okay, so how much was this person involved in the experience? Or was it more like a teacher thought they could just plug the information into the student's head? Okay, please share. And then once you have recalled that, share your experience below, but don't analyze it just yet. Just tell the story. It can be any experience, either good or bad, formal or informal. Just think of the educational experience that you have. That explains about the delivery and facilitation. How much was this person, whether the educator, whether it's your parents, was involved in the experience, or was it more like the teacher taught, like they're plugging into the information into the student's head? So either one, whether it's good, it's bad, no worries, just any information that you want to share. Okay, so once you have shared that, you can look at the other stories that other participants have shared, and then keep in mind and which part, whether it's a facilitation or is it a delivery. Okay, okay, and then for the main part of the activity, comment on at least 3 posts, making note of how you think the educational experience was affected by the educator's ideas about the possibility of information delivery. Also, don't worry if the posts already have comments. The ideas best come out when discussion takes place. So feel free to add to each other's ideas. Okay. So feel free to comment on each other's posts over here. You can see that some posts doesn't have any comments yet. So take a pick. Or if you want to go through the older posts, you can do so as well. Okay, I'm going to give you like 5 minutes, no, 3 minutes for you to share your own experience, and then another 3 minutes, 3 minutes for you to 4 minutes, 4 minutes, 4 minutes for you to share, 4 minutes for you to look into other people's posts and put in your own thoughts on whether it's facility or delivery. Okay, all right. Let's 8 minutes. We'll continue back at 10:10. Okay. right, how is everybody doing? There's okay. Okay, so we have Nadia who shared. When I was a law undergraduate, the tutor has the habit of asking why and another why and yet another why. But we usually run out of answers by the first why, or if I'm more prepared by the second. I find this technique of prompting very useful later in my work life, but as a student, I found it nerve-wracking and sometimes irritating. I understand this. This is a really great technique, actually, prompting the why prompts. But I understand how as a learner how that feels, because we only know from what we have read about. We're not like in depth how our educators are, how our lecturers are. So usually I've been in the same situation. So usually I'll be like defensive. What do you mean why? This is why. I've mentioned this to you why. But yeah, I like how this approach works very well for some people, but I guess for me, there might be a better way for us to, another way, maybe not a better way. This is a good way already. Maybe another way for some learners to explore the topics more. But yeah, I like how this. I think this would go into facilitation because they didn't like give you directly what the answers are. They let you try to figure out what the answers are on your own. And then if you like, usually if you stray or it took too long, then they'll give you the answer. But yeah, I think this would go under facilitation rather than delivery, because it helps the learners to find the answer themselves and explore it on their own. Some educators actually give time. Okay, I'll give you time. Think it over and come back to me when you have the answers, right? Which is a good method as well for the learners to be more prepared afterwards. Okay. Okay, we have Zinian who posted here. I still remember when I was Form 5, my teacher Tuan Haji Shariza, who teach Bahasa Malaysia, taught literature course. And he used an utterly creative way to teach us, which was acting. He acted the important characters in the story and novel like Tumpera, Hantua, and lots more heroes while explaining the details and story flow. With his extraordinary acting skills and narration, we all can understand the plot, characteristic, setting, themes, background easily. I'd say such method was an awesome story delivery approach, making learners to understand the important events, plots without memorizing. Students watch the acting, and this boosts our cognitive and constructive development through social interaction. All in all, it was an unforgettable learning experience that I ever had. Okay, so this was a combination. For me, I feel like it was a combination of delivery and facilitation. So because it was more into delivery, where he was the one that was delivering the information, it became a one-way interaction rather than a two-way interaction. So in order for him to make this into a facilitation, he could include the learners or make the learners do it instead, which will make the learners to understand it more, get into characters, get into the plot, get into the settings, so that they fully understand how how the story works, how it revolves around. So usually this would take some research, it would take some understanding, but you can see how this impacts learners like Zain, who remembers certain events like this as well, because of the excitement, how it was different, how he facilitated this and narrated it in different way rather than just letting you guys like letting the learners just listen to the textbooks, right? So that is how it becomes a little bit more into facilitation. But for maybe it won't work well for all of the learners, because they might not understand why this happens. Okay, so if you involve the learners themselves, make them do it, they might be able to understand it better. Okay. Okay, so I'm just going to read. Maybe I'll read Annalisa's one. So I remember when I was in 6th grade, a substitute teacher came to my class to replace my class teacher, who was on maternity leave. She communicated with me and my classmate using a thick Terengganu dialect. And you know what? We are Penangits. She is from Kuala Berang. We have not had any experience with someone talking to us using the Terengganu dialect. She taught us the Malay language, and most of the time we didn't understand what she was saying. She tries to communicate without a dialect, and I pity her when my classmate teased her. Even though I attempted translating for my classmates, but didn't know what it was either. At least I know some of the words she keeps repeating. Now I am married to my husband, who was born in Terengganu. Finally, I can understand and communicate using the dialect. From the bottom of my heart, I can now understand her feelings as she struggles to teach the Malay language in the class while trying to communicate without dialect. I learned something from her. Thank you. Yeah, I like this story because it shows you how immersive when you got married to your husband, you now understand the dialect because you were immersed into it. So it now falls into facilitation of a two-way interaction, because you communicated that with your husband and maybe your husband's family as well, and when you were experienced that as a learner with your teacher before that, it was a delivery, because you don't understand what she was trying to communicate with you guys, or trying to sampaikan. So I like how this goes from delivery, where you were just looking at from one point of view, and now that you're married with a husband who speaks the same dialect, you can understand because you are immersed, you are experiencing what she experiencing the language herself, and now you understand it better. So yeah, this goes both ways as well. I like this story as well. Thank you for sharing. All right. Okay, so what can we see from this activity and the videos for this? So for me, I think what you can get from this is that learning just by delivering isn't learning per se. So thus come the facilitation part, where you have to facilitate your learners in terms of not just being there, correcting them, and you have to basically change their perspective make them understand in a way that might not be a one-way method. Okay, so let's look into this more in the next page. Okay, so now let's look about what facilitator and facilitation. I know Sean has touched this a bit, but I'm going to touch a bit more on both of this. So what is a facilitator? So a facilitator, as defined by Merriam-Webster's dictionary, is someone or something that facilitates something. Okay, it's especially someone who helps to bring about an outcome, such as learning, productivity, or communication by providing indirect or unobtrusive assistance, guidance, and supervision. So from the definition alone, you can see the responsibility of a facilitator is not just one single role. There are many responsibilities that you have to provide as a facilitator to make sure that the learners achieve the intended outcome. Thus having you wearing different masks for different roles and responsibilities. So remember the different masks that we did in the icebreaking activity? You are one person, but in different situation, you are wearing a different mask. So this is the same as a facilitator. You have to wear different masks depending on the different situations, and you have to figure out what kind of mask that you have to wear. Okay. Okay. So that is a bit on facilitator. What about facilitation? Okay. So in facilitation, the role of a central authority is reduced in favor of giving learners more power to direct their own learning. Learners are given the materials and tools they need to learn, and support is given to them to engage with ideas, understand concepts, and apply that knowledge to their own lives. It marks a shift from simple content delivery to learner-directed learning, as seen in this image below, and encourage dialogue, exploration, and curiosity. So this is what I'm talking about. We want to shift from the teacher-centered learning to a more student-centered learning. So you can see here the teachers is the one like giving the information, giving the content to learners. But for student-centered learning, the teacher is on the side, like all the sides, but the learners are like everywhere. They're communicating like left, right, up, down, whatever. The teachers are just on the side, barely. You can see like sometimes barely there. Okay, so also Sean has used this one as well. Education is not the filling of a pail, but the lighting of a fire. So find out what that means for yourself. Okay, all right. So now we have another activity. So far, you've only know about the base definition of a facilitator and what facilitation is. But it doesn't truly explain what a facilitator does and what makes for a good one. So I want to know, in your opinion, whether in an online course or in a face-to-face class, what do you think makes a good facilitator? What and how do they facilitate the class? I want you to share your opinion in under here, okay? I'll just give you 3 minutes to share your opinions on whether what do you think makes a good facilitator. Okay, just share this. Okay. Right. Okay. Yes. Okay. So I think some of you are still writing. No worries. I just wanted to maybe read out a few submissions. Okay. I want to. Okay. So I'm really interested in what Eugene has posted here. A facilitator is someone who empowers the students to take charge of their education. A facilitator throws questions to keep the students moving forward along a particular thought. A facilitator encourages students to experience failures and reflect on the learnings. From there, they reattempt again in hopes of getting the desired answer. So I like where he mentions encourage students to experience failures and reflect on the learning. So this is where it comes really good in understanding your learners, because like I said, not everyone can do correctly on the or understand the content from the get-go. There's a process that they need to go through in order for them to understand, immerse the contents, and go in depth. So having the learners to experience failures and reflect on their learning is one way for them to do this. When maybe they failed the first time, they'll try to understand it better. They go a bit more in depth. This is how, and then they reflect. So this is how they come up with a better solution, a better answer. And we, as the educator, as a facilitator, we are not supposed to demotivate the learners. When this happens, because for us, because in terms of our role, we are to give them a nudge. Okay, who are we to basically say you're wrong? Because there are a lot of people who process information differently, and we have to understand that. So as much as we want them to go to one straight line, it's not as desirable as that. There's a lot of pathways and roadblocks that they have to go through in order for them to get to the desired outcome. Okay, so let your learners experience failures and let them reflect on the learnings. I like how he put this in to how a facilitator works. Okay, so maybe for us, we can reflect how it is as well. Don't be mad at if learners don't understand from the get-go. Don't be mad that they didn't do it correctly from the start. Understand why they have gone through that path. Okay, maybe they understand it differently than what you have explained. So maybe you can try to find out why they understand it that way. Okay, all right. I want to read, I think, another. Here's this one. Yes, this one is by Sasha. Facilitators are there to assist, direct, engage, and invoke curiosity of the subject to the students or receiver. They are there to push the boundaries of common perceived ideas, provide guidance on the subject matter, and enable self-directed learning. The facilitator should also encourage open communications through questions, opinions, reflections, and in some occasions, encourage conflict discourse that could lead to a greater learning depth and reflection within the student's learning process. So you can see how Sasha understands how a facilitator works is to push boundaries of the common perceived ideas. So this is where it really meant that we have to push, or we don't just go beyond the surface, don't go on the surface, we go beyond that, right? We want the learners to understand more to the content rather than what we have given them. We want them to or push their boundaries of what they understand on the surface level. So try to push their boundaries, try to make them understand more than what you have given them. We have a lot of ways, activities works, but also the community that you built is one way to do this as well. So yeah, let's go. I guess let's go through how we can do this in the next page. Okay, so let's look at online and offline facilitation. So take a minute to think about what you are currently doing when facilitating your learners. For example, you're praising them, regular interaction on topics not related to the course, building rapport, encourage self-expression, anything you do to facilitate the learning session. Okay. Make a list and share your current facilitation method in the space in this portfolio. Okay. Okay, so for this we just wanted to see what are you doing, what are you currently doing for your learners right now. Okay, so just take a minute to make that list, and after you have shared, take a look at other people's posts and take note of the ones that are not on your list. Maybe this could be useful for you as well. Okay. It's always nice to learn from other people as because we are also always learning from others as well, right? Okay, let's see example. Okay, interact. Okay, I'm giving you like 1 to 2 minutes for you to make a list. And share your list in the box. Okay. Okay. So while you do that, I'm just going to show what other people has posted before this. Okay. So we have Susie, where she shared what she did is that she interacted with the learners on topics which are not related to the course. She encouraged them to respond to questions asked and calling out their names while checking their online tasks. Praise them when they answer questions, although the answer is incorrect. Okay, good. And then we have Zarika. She keeps track of the students' progress, always give feedback to the students if there's any interaction, always praise them when they answer the question, case studies and quizzes, and just a short reply to students' work to appreciate what they have done. Okay, then we have Lini. Our current facilitation method is building rapport to attract attention of the first class, encourage an analysis thinking and self-opinion, all ears to the learners followed by feedback. These are good facilitation methods. And then we have Kim, get to know students, prompt them by giving them guided examples, encourage them positively, ask open-ended questions, and creating activities that allow them to learn from each other, and also giving them more challenging scenarios to think about after they have mastered basics. Okay, you can see how from each submission, there's always different methods. There's at least 1 or 2 that's different from other participants, from other submissions, right? Okay, Elena, I first and foremost remember all my learners' name whenever possible, as I think this alone will help learners to feel that I see them and a form of appreciation for attending my class. I will encourage them to speak up whenever possible, especially in sharing their own experiences, and also reciprocate by sharing my own experiences as well. I will also keep things fun and casual, as this will help to build a bond and engagement with everyone in class. Allocating time for one-on-one consultation is needed if needed, is also important so that learners know that I'm here to support them. This is quite a good example of how she supports her learners. Okay. And we have Ariza. Facilitation method is getting to know the learners, especially on the very first day. Try to recognize your students and call up their name during session. This will build a rapport and offer them consultation. Okay, so this is her method on building a rapport with the students. Okay, so you can see how everyone does it, and maybe you can take example, take some of this method for your own use as well. Okay, and we have Eugene, where he introduced himself to the learners, start off with an icebreaker questions, offer praises whenever they make progress, and provide some regular tips and pointers of the topics. Okay, so a lot of this are nearly similar, but also different in their own way. So don't worry, there's no fixed way of how you can do facilitation. Whatever it is, it's more on how you can support your learners. How can you give them more guidance, more understanding about that course, about that topic, so they can learn better and understand better. Okay. Okay. Hope you guys have shared. If not, feel free to share this. Okay, let's see. Langit Singh also shared this. For your facilitation, you introduce to the learners and get to know the learners well. Start with an online survey about the topic, give out a small token whenever they make progress, and provide feedback and input on their progress. I like that you have this one as well. This is one of the intrinsic motivation, which is very popular amongst my learners. They like tokens, and they get very competitive sometimes. Okay, and then let's see, Nadia. I asked why. Yeah, and ask students to do the task first. Once done, I prompt for feedback. What are you happy or not happy about this task, and how you did it? About how you did, and use role play or case studies or debates. I'm very fascinated about this part. What are you happy or not happy about the task? That is, I guess that's falls under a bit of self-reflection for the learners, but also this helps you as the educator on how you can maybe upgrade or fix that task itself if it's too hard for a lot of learners or anything, right? But yeah, I like that you have that this part as well. Okay. Yasmin, it is important to build a good rapport before you start the lesson. Students should be encouraged to express themselves in their own unique way, as everyone is different in their own ways. Do not kill their confidence by criticizing them all time. Criticizing them all the time, and encourage them to take part in the lesson. Okay, good tip by Yasmin here. And then lastly, let's look at Annalisa. Is introduce yourself in the introduction video. Let the learners know you and learn your expectations towards them. Build rapport with the learners by conducting icebreaker activities. Praise them for each achievement that they made. Encourage the learners to ask questions. Well prepared to answer all doubts. Okay. I want to highlight the number one. Introduce yourself in the introduction videos. If your course is it's a virtual one where fully self-paced, this is a very good tip to have. Introduce yourself in an introduction video, or have a profile of you with your picture, because that actually helps the learners in knowing that there is a person helping them, putting a face for them to put a face. It's not like this class is a robot. There's nobody or nobody facilitating this class. I'm not taking this seriously. By having that introduction video is actually set the expectation. They have put a face to the person constructing this course, facilitating this course. It helps them to know you a little bit more. So if you're not, if you don't have like an introduction video, you have like just a biodata, I also suggest for you to have like a very casual picture, not the very formal one, not very casual, but slightly casual one lah. So that it sets that expectation to the learners. If it's even if in the video itself, try not to be too formal, because you want your learners to feel like they can relate to you, they can reach out to you. If it's, I feel like if it's too formal, learners might get intimidated to reach out to you. Okay, so good tip over here. All right. Okay, so now that you shared what your current facilitation techniques are, let's go to the next part. What do you know an online facilitator does? So now I want you to list down the roles you think an online facilitator does. Think of all the roles that you can think of, and then compare them with your previous list that you have shared. Okay. Are there any similarities or differences? Share your thoughts and in the section below. Okay, in here. Okay. So I want you to first think of it. Think what an online facilitator does, and compare on what you are currently doing. Okay. And then see what are the similarities, see what are the differences, what you can do about it, or maybe your own self-reflection on why aren't you doing what you think an online facilitator should do. Okay. All right. I'm also going to give you like 3 minutes for this, and while you do that, I'll go through some of the submissions. Okay. Okay, let's see. Sorry. Okay, so for Ariza over here, the similarities that she has with the online presentation that she thinks should have is that you have one-to-one consultation and reflection session. The learners can be able to share their thoughts. The differences is that your reflection session, I'm not entirely sure. Oh, this is what she thought an online facilitator should have, and this is what she doesn't isn't currently doing. So yeah. So roles, we have Nur Zalika here. Make sure the students is on their track and can complete their course, marking the assessment given, give feedback to students for any interaction, and provide supporting online materials in teaching and learning process. So these are good roles for an online facilitation to facilitator to have as well. Okay, all of these are mainly as a support function for the learners. Okay, so have Elena. I think that the role of online facilitator are quite similar to the in-class facilitator. But in an online environment, more thoughts need to be given in how we would like to purposely create engaging learning activities, as interaction may not happen organically. So I think in the online environment, facilitators need to be more aware on how to create the space for interaction to happen. There is also why thoughts need to be given in how we design the learning process and experience in an online course. Okay, so I agree with how Elena sees an online facilitator should be, where the facilitators need to be more aware on how to create the spaces for interaction to happen. Because for an online course, we usually think even if we are doing it currently what we're doing, like a webinar like this, a lot of people feel like the interaction is not there. They cannot speak their thoughts, or they cannot understand more about what the learners are going through so much. Because some learners may just close their cameras and not even pay attention, right? So how you help with this is to create a space for interaction for the learners. Have a chat space, have activities where they need to interact with each other, and maybe instead of a one-way version like how I'm currently doing it with you guys, maybe have a two-way version where everybody can see everybody. Okay. So these are some suggestions by everyone. You can take a look at other posts if you want to know every other submissions on how you might be able to improve yourself as well. Okay. All right. I think I'm gonna go to the next page because we have quite a few more pages to go through. Okay. So now let's look at facilitation. So what does an online facilitator does? Okay. So a facilitator guides and supports learners throughout their learning journey. Think of the facilitator as the glue that holds all of the community members together in any successful online course. Their job is to be the community manager who promotes active participation, moderates discussion, and challenge learners to think critically so that they can achieve the intended learning outcome. So I think a lot of you already have the same thoughts on what an online learning facilitator does. Try to always remember this when you're managing your courses. Okay. So online facilitation, how to do it, the open learning stuff. So let's watch this video by on facilitation by Prof. Richard Buckland. There's a few key points that you can see here and how you can encourage community and engage students, expected patterns of teacher-student engagement, tips on creating an engaging community, and what happens if students are posting the wrong answers. Okay.
So for setting up community, it really is a matter of us being quiet. You can't be quiet from the beginning or you'll just have an empty, silent room. You foster noise in the room, in the online space early on, and then you withdraw yourself as much as possible, just giving a nudge and a jet. Oh, one more quick thing, I know I haven't got much longer. Recently I was involved with 2 courses that are now running at UNSW. One has 500 students in it, one has 2,000 students in it. The 500 student one is a computing course. And I was there helping set it up. And in the first few days, that's when you've got to build community. The first few days of the course, that's the time for answering. I think, Philem, was it your course? The student asked a question in one of the MOOCs last year, and I quickly contacted the lecturer saying, oh, there's a question here. Was that you or might have been someone else? And the lecturer came along and then gave an answer straight away. That's what you've got to do. For the first 2 days, you've got to be on the course the whole time, and if a question pops up, you've got to respond at once. Because you don't want someone asking a question and it looking like the questions don't get answered here. You want them to feel this is live, there's someone I'm talking to, it's a real person. So I have a warm-up activity I always ask students to do to get them used to commenting, and that is I say, oh, hi guys, welcome to the course. The first activity you've got to do in the course is just introduce yourself on the home page. And I make them do it on the home page so everyone can see it, because if you log in, you just go to the home page. I want the home page to be alive and fantastic and showing activity, so you want to go there and do that. So on the home page on this course, you can just see people coming in saying, hi, I'm John, I do this, and hi, I'm Edna, I'm pregnant at the moment, and then I'll come in and say, oh wow, when's your baby due, Edna? That's awesome, I've got 3 children, are you really sure you want to do this? And then, or we'll joke, or someone will say, I'm from Canada, and I'll say, oh, I went to Canada once, it's really nice, and then other people will say, and just I have this really conversational thing going for the first day or 2 of the course. You don't want a day or 2 of silence. And after that, the ice is broken and people are used to talking and introducing themselves. So in this economics course, I was doing that in the computing course, it was alive. And then I went over to the economics course where I wasn't so involved with the course. And there's another lecturer running it, and I didn't want to interfere with his course. And I noticed he had 400 students currently enrolled. So 400 people had come to that, had logged into the site already, and there wasn't a single comment. And that just made me so tense. This was like a day into the course. And you really want their first interaction in the course, the first time they come in, you want them to comment. You don't want them to get conditioned into thinking, I come along, I look, I go away. You want them from the very beginning thinking, I come along, I look, I comment, then I go away. Or I stay and answer other people's comments. So I'm going, what can I do? Because there's 400 people, even though I'm watching, I say 401, 402, people are logging in all the time, and there's just empty front page and silence on it. So what do you think I did? A couple of strategies went through my mind. Strategy 1 was I should just go and say something. But that's not encouraging people to talk if the lecturer is talking, or someone who's not even the lecturer, because I'm not the lecturer of that. That's weird. So there's this weird guy no one knows who looks too old to be a student commenting. I'm not going to join that conversation. So what I did was I went to my own course where people had been introducing themselves and I'd been chatting with them for a couple of days, and I found one student who was in both courses. His name was Bob. And I just sent him a message saying, hey Bob, I notice you're in economics too, and no one's saying anything over there. Would you mind just introducing yourself and setting the ball rolling? And he posted back saying, yeah, sure. Then like 30 seconds later, there's a comment over there. Hi, I'm Bob. I'm doing economics and computing. I really like it here. It's fun. I'm from Canada. It's really cold in Canada. Brrr, bang. Within an hour, there are like 800 comments as everyone else logged in now because he's broke the ice and set the ball rolling. It would almost be worth paying someone to do that or creating a false student account to get it going. But once they build community, that course is now alive. How's that course go? I haven't looked at it for a couple of weeks. Is it? Yeah.
Very good, actually. A lot of interaction.
Yeah.
More interaction the first week than they ever had in the whole course.
Yeah. Because the lecturer running it is more a traditional lecturer and he's not really thinking of it as a MOOC. So the interaction he's got now is just the habit that the students have fallen into. But you're, I hope, as teachers, going to be encouraging that interaction every week, getting it going a little bit faster and a little bit faster. So there should be more interaction each week, not less.
Yes. So you can see how you doing it the open learning style is you can encourage the community and engage the learners. This is one of the ways on how Prof. Richard Buckland did it. He didn't go into it himself, because sometimes having the educator go and reply to you is a bit scary and it's a bit intimidating. So if the learner sets the ball rolling and everything, another learner are more open to do this as well. Okay, so try to encourage learners to interact with each other rather than depend on you. Okay, so let's look at the big 5 in online interaction and learning. So first is basically introduce yourself. Take some time and let your learners know who you are. Your role of someone marking my activities will quickly switch into this great person is my teacher, and adding interesting icebreaker activity will be just perfect to create an unforgettable rapport. So as I mentioned, and on how was it Annalisa just now who mentions about the video interaction video. Yeah, so similar as that. So as much as you want to know your learners, introduce yourself as well. You don't want your learners to just know you as someone marking my activities. You want the learners to know you as this great person is my teacher. So you want that rapport. You want to your learners to be able to come to you to and not be scared of you, to ask questions, to ask even silly questions. So, and how you can do this is by adding, one way is to by add interesting icebreaking activity. Okay. All right. So what about the icebreaking activity? So make your initial activity as interesting as possible. The icebreaking activity can be simple but still engaging. So as you can see in all of our basics workshop, there's always an icebreaking activity, because we want you guys to always start interacting with one another, get to know each other. Feel free to let yourself be known, not just hide from behind your computer, right? So I want to know who you are. I want to know why you're taking this course and everything. I am passionate to know you as much as you're passionate to know more about this course. Okay, so icebreaking activity, really important. Have that in your course in the first page. Okay, and then be active, create groups, and facilitate discussions. You can approach your learners by creating groups and asking questions. Focus on appreciating your learners by liking their comments and posting a short comment back. Are your learners interested in current trends in social media? Create a group where they can talk to each other, share videos, interesting articles, and or their own experience. So try to get on their level as well, and maybe open up more sessions or part where they can be a bit casual, not just about the course itself. Okay, you can also relate to the course, like and have like interesting activities, like how Sean has the Photoshop battle just now. Yeah, so like for that one, it relates to memes, creating images, funny images. You don't want it to be too stressful, too rigid. You want it to be a little bit laid back as well. So sometimes it's good to detour a bit from your content, but as this creates a bit of excitement for the learners. Okay, I also remember someone posted about a workshop that they went, where the session have a lot of Kahoot activities. So that usually Kahoot is very engaging, where you get fast response and everything, right? So that is one way for you to get excitement from your learners as well. Okay, then next one is create groups or pair activities. The activities are the super exciting way to see what your learners learn, but not just that, they let your learners be active in their own learning. Individual learning can be extended by group learning. Whatever the activity or topic, make your learners learn from one another. So I always suggest you guys to have activities which are engaging. Ask the learners to post or comment on other learners' posts, but try to have activities that are group or pair activities, because you want the learners to learn with each other, learn from each other, and not just learn on their own. So by learning from one another, they actually build on their knowledge. Okay, and then lastly, be their partner in crime. As a teacher, you might choose the role of an expert, role of a friend, or both. Reflect your learners' input, listen to them closely, value their opinions, use your sense of humor, and the most important of all, make your learners feel good and successful. So these are some of the tips for online interaction and learning that you can do in your own online course. Okay, so so right now we're going to do another activity, which is for you to think and share. So part one is below is a Padlet board with 3 sentence starters over here. These are the sentence starters. For each sentence starters, write one response and place them under the corresponding sentence. So I want you to complete this response. So what an online facilitator is, what is it? In my online environment, an online facilitator always, what is it? And in my course community, I expect to see my learners. Okay. So if you want to add your submission, just click on the plus button over here. Okay, and then just add your answer and just click publish. Okay. All right. Okay. So I'm going to give you 5 minutes to do this. Feel free to just put on the answer what comes to your mind when you see all this sentence starters. Okay. Okay. Okay, 5 minutes. Okay. All right. So here is a bit. Let me just go through a bit on what others have shared. An online facilitator is someone who tries to engage motivate, guide, manage all learners through online activities. An online facilitator is one who helps the learners learn using online materials and interaction. Online facilitator is someone who creates an engaging learning experience creatively, motivates students to actively participate in the learning session. So these are all good submissions. Let's see the second one. In my online environment, an online facilitator always needs to be alert of his learners' conditions, monitors his learners' progress online, and do engaging activities with his learners to keep them interested. Okay. Motivates learners, observe learners' interaction, and assist learners in learning process. And an online facilitator is always there to provide support, expand the subject knowledge to the students, and provide guide reflections of subject that has and will be learned either via discussion or critical thinking exercise. And in my course community, I expect to see my learners to be engaging learners, willing to participate in discussion, ready to voice out whenever they encounter a problem. And then actively participating in activities given, build rapport, find common ground for their learning experiences and learn from each other. Respect everyone, actively join the session, apply what they have learned, and also give feedback to their peers. So yeah, all of these are a good understanding of what an online facilitator is, how you want it to for an online facilitator to be, and what you expect the learners to also be in during the course. Okay, so now in part 2, I want you to look at all the responses on the board and then make a summary of the responses for each of the sentence starters. Post your summaries in the space below. So take a look at what others has posted in here, and then from there, make a summary of what everyone has posted over here, what you think an online facilitator is. So just continue it, make it again an online facilitator is, and then continue with the summary of what everyone have posted over here. Okay, and same goes to the other sentence starters. So for this, you can do it on your own time as well. Okay, but yeah, let me read from Michelle over here. So from what Michelle has shared, an online facilitator is a person who is able to create a conductive learning environment, motivates and promotes learning through relevant and authentic bite-sized learning activities, guides and directs the learners on the learning path, not giving them the answers, but pointing them to the path that leads to the answer, sets clear goals and standards, allow learners to make choices to recreate the knowledge and skills gained so that the learning is meaningful to them. And in my online, and the second one is in my online environment, an online facilitator always creates opportunities for interaction between the learners to build the learning community, guides the learners as they seek for their knowledge and enhance their skills, provides timely feedback and suggestions for improvement, and nudge interactive learners to participate in the learning. So that's the second one. And finally, in my course community, I expect to see my learners participating actively in the learning process while supporting their peers in the learning journeys as well, and working together to solve problems or to make decisions. So from Michelle, it's Michelle's submission is herself. You can see how the summary of facilitation is kind of similar from person to one person, right? It's just that you have slightly different definition of what it is. But all in all, everybody kind of have the same perspective of what facilitation and facilitators are. All right. Okay, now let's go to the next part, the many masks of a facilitator. So this is where you get to know where your roles are, what your roles as a facilitators are. So I've asked you before this, what makes a good facilitator? So a good facilitator knows how to lead without being the leader. They can show learners what to look without telling them what to see. They give learners space to explore their interests and provide opportunities for them to make meaningful conversations between the material and their own world. They understand that not everyone learns the same way and can provide tailored support so that everyone can participate and achieve their goals. Ultimately, they can bring out the best in their learners and empower them to make informed choices about their learning. About their learning, they let learning happen. Okay, so learning, this is a quote by John Holt, learning is not the product of teaching. Learning is the product of the activity of learners. So these are some of the qualities of a good facilitator. So try to reflect and see whether you have been doing this for your courses and for your classes as well. And if you don't, would you have this? Would you consider to have it and be this person in your class in the future? Okay. All right. So now let's look at the facilitator mask. I mentioned that as a facilitator, you have different masks that you have to wear depending on the situation. So in this session, we're going to assume you have this different masks. So each mask represents the different roles that you have to play as a facilitator. So you have 5 masks: a host, a guide, a cheer squad, a mentor, and a releaser. So these are all the masks a facilitator have. Maybe there's more, but these are some of the main ones that you can see that a facilitator does. Okay. So the first one is a host mask. So in this mask, you create a conducive learning environment. Make sure participants feel welcome, happy, and comfortable, like a good host at a house party. This can be started from a good icebreaking activity that can eliminate a learning environment. Okay, so a host, you want the learners to feel like they're welcome, to feel like they're safe in a safe environment. They're learning. They won't feel like maybe you encourage them to mingle with one another. That's the facilitator host, the host mask for a facilitator. Okay, and then the cheer squad. So the cheer squad mask it's important for you. It's important to try to ensure learners are working and learning because they're interested in the material and how it relates to them, which is the intrinsic motivation, rather than just doing whatever they can get to get your praises. Therefore, as a facilitator, you have to also be their own personal cheer squad, cheering for them every step of the way and not just when they have achieved something. Okay, be the cheer squad to ensure that they are learning because they wanted to, not because they're doing the activities because they wanted to get praises from you. Okay, and then we have the guide mask. So like a tour guide, they give information and guide people from getting lost. Use a common tool like language to create a community of practice to happen. Ask great questions. Reflect the way they have been asking questions by seeding, big picturing, the promise of power, and modeling. Okay, so sorry. Okay, so there's the guide mask is for you to guide learners whenever they get lost. Maybe during an activity, you can see that they're straying a bit from the direction that you wanted them to be. So you have to guide them. Don't give them straight answers. Try to guide them into the right lane. Try to guide them on understanding the topic better by asking great questions. You can also reflect the way they have been asking questions by doing seeding, big picturing, or using the promise of power, and also modeling. So try to do this. If you want to know more about this, you can just Google what it is. But all of this are ways for you to guide the learners on how to understand the topic better. Okay. And next one is the mentor mask. So a good mentor helps their students to define goals that are challenging but achievable. Sometimes all this takes is a quick discussion with the students to inspire them into action that they wouldn't have otherwise done. If you ever had a teacher in school who said something like, "You're really good at this. I'd like you to try to do something extra special for this project," then you had a good mentor teacher. And I guarantee you took it upon yourself to produce some amazing work in that subject, bringing about great learning outcomes along the way. I think some of you might remember that some learners, some submissions before this, some submissions by the past participants have mentioned about this, where the teachers, the educator have nudged them into going into debates and everything, and they have improved their confidence. It's something that it's something memorable for them. So this is where the educator use their mentor mask. So it's slightly different than a guide mask, where the guide is if the learners are lost. For mentor mask, you inspire them to define their goals, to they're already good, so you want them to achieve more than they because you see potential in them. So this is where you use the mentor mask. Okay. And finally, you have the releaser mask. So in this mask, you empower your students to take what they have learned and reshape it, discuss it, disagree with parts of it to make it their own. Allow students to select which aspects are important to them and their interests, and forget about the rest, so long as standardized assessment allow you to. So if the work of a facilitator is done well, every student will come away with something different, something meaningful to them. And like in art class, you provide the tools, but your students have the freedom to create what they want. So once they have that, once they have achieved something different and adapted into something meaningful for them, this is where you use the releaser mask. You are releasing them into a better learning experience for them. Okay. All right. So these are the different masks that you use that you have as a facilitator. Yes, are the 5 masks. Okay. All right. Okay. Now let's go to the next part. Okay. So this part is a bunch of activities for you to identify which masks are you using for different situations. Okay. So now that you get an idea of what each mask are, let's try to see if you can identify which mask to use in different situations and scenarios. For each scenarios, you need to figure out which mask you need to wear. Use the mask in the previous page to ask your answer. Previous page to help you with your answer. Give your reason and rationale on why you choose that mask for each situation. Okay, so please use the only 5 masks in the previous page to identify which mask to use for the situation. Okay, so let's try to. There's 7 scenarios in here, so you have to do all of it. But you can do this on your own time later after this workshop. So let's discuss for the first one. Okay, so for this first scenario, your course is ready to go live. Start for the introduction activity. So consider these points. Who are your learners? Do they know each other, and what are the threats involved? How do you make sure that your learners feel welcome? So I want you to write down the instruction in detail on how would you make your learners feel welcome for the introduction activity. And then, which mask will you be wearing, and why does this mask work? Okay, so in order for you to have the introductory activity, which mask would you be wearing for this? Okay, so for out of the 5 masks before this, which mask would you think would suit this? What activity would you use for the introductory activity? Feel free to share this in here. Okay, so let me see. Let's see. Okay, let's see. Michelle's here. So for Michelle, the target learners, who her learners are, pre-university students. So since her course is open to the public, the learners came from various locations with various backgrounds. Thus, there is very low possibilities that the learners know each other. The threats involved could be cultural differences. So for her, it's an open course. The learners don't know each other. So it means that the introductory activity is needed for the learners to create engagement. Okay. So how does she make sure that the learners feel welcome and right? And what are the instructions? So to make the learners feel welcome, she will create an icebreaking activity in the homepage. That way, they can all see people and the interaction once they join the course. The activity instruction is, how did your morning go? Post a picture of how your morning went. Do remember to introduce yourself and tell us where you are from. Then have a look at the pictures posted by others and guess how the morning went. Okay, so this is a nice activity. Very low level. Everybody can participate. They can just post a picture and get other learners to interact with to see how they perceive that picture. So this is a very nice activity. So the mask that she will be wearing is the host mask, because she'd like to make sure that the participants feel welcome and comfortable in being in the course. So this is a good answer, because for her, she wants to use the host mask because she wants to be a good host in the learning in the first part of the course. So yeah. So what do you think? Maybe you're using a different mask. Which mask would you use? Okay. Okay. So this goes for every activity in this page. Feel free to identify which mask suits the different situations. Okay. All right. Okay, so you can do this on your own time. I'll give you, I'll check it once you're done later on. Okay, so don't worry about finishing this right now. Well, you can do this after this workshop. Okay, so now let's look into building an online community. Okay, so you have what are the roles of a facilitator, what our facilitations are, what's the difference between delivery and facilitations, how can you use this on this information to build an online community. Okay, so why is it important? first things first, why is it important for you to build an online community? So facilitators play an important role. We know this. By building an online community, the learners get to learn from each other. This helps reduce the one-way teacher to learner interaction. This also means that you don't need to exclusively look over their work 24/7. In an online course with a large number of learners, you need to have this. Not that a small class couldn't do this either, you can. But this are more, well, this for a big class with a big number, this works much better. Okay, so to help you with reducing your workload. Okay, so by making it online, it doesn't mean that you need to be online all the time either. So if it's a small class, that would be much better. The learners are going to be much more close knit and know each other. But if you have a large number of class, where sometimes you have like a class of 100 students, online course with a good community is what you want, because this will lessen your load, where you don't have to come in every single day to check if there's new posts, if there's learners that have questions. Maybe there's a lot of questions, so this will actually take up time. Okay, so how you lessen this load is by building a community, an online community within the learners themselves. So how to build an online learning community using SWOT method. Okay, so in the previous session, you have explored what facilitation is about and the unique elements that facilitating an online course requires. You also spent some time about the many must of a facilitator. So now that your course is ready and you are all excited, how do we actually go about creating a community within the learners? Okay, so in this section, I'll show you how you can do this. Using the SWOT method. Okay, so the SWOT method gives you 5 steps to facilitate your online course, and the first step is to set the stage. So imagine you're watching a theater or a movie production, such as this one. You are in the audience expecting to have a great time. How would it feel if the set design is just so-so? Okay, so the set design is crucial to the whole show. It requires the set designer to understand the elements in the story and create a set which enables the story to flow well. Ideally, the audience should be able to identify with and involve themselves emotionally in the show. In that moment, that the audience is part of the community watching the show. Similarly, to build an awesome online community for your course, we need a good, well-planned course design. Facilitation starts with a great course design. You can set the stage for learners to interact by including activities which are authentic, engaging, and collaborative in your online course, such as these examples over here. So for the first step is setting the stage. So I think most of you have already done this when you have designed your course in the first workshop. Okay, so in the first workshop, you have you have put in your information, your key details, your course structures, your outcome, and plan a bit of the activities. So and throughout the first 3 workshops, you have built on that. You built your landing page, you built your course homepage, you built your activities. All of that actually are setting the stage. You have visualized how the courses are going to be, right? So when you're planning that, you can actually imagine how the course is going to be, how will we run, how it looks like. That's the same as setting the stage. When you're designing activity, you have an outcome that you expect how that will turn out, right? And how this looks like as well. So if you didn't plan this, for some people, I myself included, I used to work where I just put my materials in and work from there. So I didn't have like a plan beforehand, because I thought I don't need a plan. I'll come up with a plan when I need to. So this doesn't. This actually is a bad plan for me. So over time, I discovered that having a plan, setting the stage on how I plan to create my course helps me tremendously, because that's when I plan on how the look and feel looks like, how the activity will go on, especially if the activities are scaffolding type, where you can where it's built by parts. If you don't do this, you can't have activities that are built by parts, and you might not be able to achieve all of the outcome that you have. Okay, so try to first plan your course and set the stage. Okay, so activities, authentic, engaging activities and collaborative activities such as this are a great way and a great tool to also give like the interaction part of learners. So this is just an example right into the course. You don't have to think about this yet from this stage. You can just think of how it will play out. Okay. All right. And then step 2 is welcome your learners to the course. So during the COVID-19 lockdown, you decided to join an online course. As with the other learners, all of you are stuck at home. To some people, online learning feels like staring into a screen and thus a solitary pursuit. So which hat will you wear to welcome your learners into your course? So what can you do to make learners feel welcome, positive, and eager to move on? So there's some tips over here, like record welcome videos, some icebreakers activity, provide orientation info, and set the ground rules. So here's some information that you can use, right? Some tips that you can use to help welcome the learners into the course. Okay, welcome your learners doesn't have to just be, hi, welcome to the course, let's start. As much as you want it to be as simple as possible, you also want to provide enough information for the learners to be eager to learn. Okay, so you can record a welcoming video, have a welcoming note, have a good icebreaking activity for the learners to interact with one another. You can provide the orientation info, like what the learners will be learning, what activities are coming up ahead, how they can achieve this, maybe some badges they'll able to collect, and also setting some ground rules. So all of these are important for you to set before you start the learning, not after you start the learning. Okay, so you can just click on each of the buttons to see more tips on how to do this. Okay, more information on how to do this. Okay, and then step 3 is encourage interaction using online tools. So interaction is the nucleus of any online course. Without it, the learning community never truly comes alive. It is crucial to boost interaction in the early stages of a course so that learners feel comfortable interacting with one another. So we have some tips over here on how to promote interaction among learners in your course. One is using interactive tools. We have some examples over here, like discussion forum, peer review, live chat, community bulletin boards, collaborative wikis and blogs. You can use that. You can actually embed that on the OpenLearning platform as well. You can humanize the interaction, where you tailor your tone and choice of words for learners to feel your presence and support, just like they would in a Facebook group or any other community platform. You want your learners to know that you are there, that you are present in the course and you are not a robot. Okay, let them know that their learning is supported, and try to use a tone that is a bit more casual and not too formal. Okay, and then provide self-assessment rubrics and automate interaction whenever possible. So if you have automate interaction like messages such as reminders on key dates, email inactive learners and send inspirational messages to those who are behind the progress bar, you can have this automated. Okay, so that even though they maybe they forgot to interact or continue their course, they have their reminders in. Okay, and then step 4 is to prompt learners to engage with the course on a deeper level. So what makes a great prompt? So a good prompt is open-ended and stands at a higher cognitive level in Bloom's taxonomy. It also invites students to explore and apply their knowledge. So from this example over here, you can see how this is quite a good prompt to engage with your learners. So this person, Farida, is just saying, what is waste? Waste is non-biodegradable substance that do not decompose into the earth. That's very, very short answer on what is waste, right? And then Rashid continues, not always true. And then Siti continues with this. Yes, agree. Waste is generally things that are no longer useful to us, can be biodegradable, such as food scraps, and non-biodegradable, such as plastic bottles. Okay, so you can see how the interaction goes on, right? And then we have the facilitator comes in and giving a good feedback on the interaction that the learners have been doing. So this would actually encourage the learners to build more interaction in other posts, in other learners postings as well. Okay, so we want that to happen, because we want the learners to learn from one another, to build on each other's knowledge on what it is. Okay. Okay. You can also see some tips on how you can prompt learners over here. Yeah. So yes, try to see what else you can do to get your learners to engage with one another. Okay, then finally, step 5, end the week with a recap and what to expect next. So learners came from various countries and advanced through the course at various paces. To keep learners on the same page, you can send a weekly recap to them. This can include a summary of the latest content learned, key takeaways from the week's discussion, information about upcoming activities, and reminders about assignments that are due soon. So this is an example of a weekly course recap announcement. So how this helps is to get the learners on the same page, so that for those who might be a little bit slow in pace, they're able to catch up on what other learners are learning, what have they learned, what are they going to learn, and what activities can they expect to come up next. Okay. Okay, so these are some of the ways that on how you can build an online community for your course. There are more tips, so you can just read on tips. Read on it by clicking on this. So there's tips on to build a thriving social community and how your course activities can enhance interaction in the community as well. Okay, so now I also want you to do this on your own time as well. I want you to plan for your course. Write a plan on how to build your community and facilitate your course once it's online. This plan is to ensure that your learners engage with each other and keep the learning going. You can use the tips given in your plan, given above, to help with your plan. I want you to be as detailed as possible. If you have an example, you can include them. Example that you have already used before, add them in. Okay, so here's what you need to have in your plan. First one is your plan of building your course community. What kind of activities, resources, the tone and language that you plan to use. Your plan on facilitating the course once it's online. How do you plan to make sure it runs smoothly throughout the course, even without you being in it all the time? And if you have examples of instruction that you would use, add them in as well. Okay, so feel free to build your plan on how you would increase the interaction for your course and increase interaction and engagement for your course. Okay, add them in here and submit it for me to review. Okay, you can do this on your own time after this session. All right, do we have any questions? Okay. All right, okay, we're nearing at the end over here, so bear with me. So one last here is on how you can administer learners on OpenLearning. So these are all technical parts. So if you have any questions, feel free to ask me ask me anytime in the chat. Okay, so first one is the general settings. You can see class settings. You can see class settings, facilitator in the class, and groups in the class. For the class setting, you can change your class banner, but this is also optional. Other than that, you can also see a list of facilitators and add or remove facilitator. You can review all the groups created in the class as well. So this falls under the administer learners and the general settings over here, not the course setup general. This is under administer learners general. So you can see all of the settings over here. Okay, the class setting for the banner, the facilitators in the class, and also groups in the class as well. Next settings that you can do to administer your learners is to set timeline. So when you click on the timeline setting, you can set the class access time. This includes the start date, enrollment close date, and also the end date. You can also set your class spacing for your course, either to be open MOOC, self-paced, or scheduled. Okay, and then for the learner settings, you can invite your learners by searching their profile name or inviting them through email. It can be more than one learners as well. You can invite, you can do a bulk invite. So on this page, you can also view the progress and other data of the learners in the class as well. So you can also send reminder message, you can export the data, you can remove the learners and see their progress. Okay. Okay, and then for statistics, you have a few analytics that you can review. The analytics on this page are the progress for the learners throughout the course. Okay. And then finally, you have the advanced settings. So if you wish to have a pre-enrollment question, you can do this on this page. So when the learners join the course, they have to answer the questions first in order for them to see the contents. Okay, so you can, if you have pre-enrollment questions, you can add them in the advanced page over here. Okay, so those are some of the settings that you can add in your course for you to administer your learners. Okay. All right. All right. So now we are at the last page and also the last for our basic series, workshop basic series. So congratulations on completing the workshop series. If you haven't done the activities yet, feel free to do so. For those who have been submitting the courses, submitting in the previous courses, I have given my feedback in the courses, so feel free to check it out. I haven't checked the 4th workshop yet, but feel free to check it out, and maybe if there are some things that you need to update, update them so that I can review them again, and maybe when you pass, I'll award you with the badges. Okay, the ambassador badges. Okay, so for those who might have missed the previous workshop, don't worry, we have recorded the sessions and we have put up the videos for you to view on your own time. So you can click on the links to join the workshop course and watch the recorded session and participate in the activities. So here's the link of the other 4 courses. Feel free to go this on your own time. And once you complete them all, just give me time to go through them and give my feedback. Okay, so all of these workshops are part of the OpenLearning Basic Series, which provides basic training for everyone that is interested to learn how to create courses using the OpenLearning platform or other platforms as well. So by completing all of the workshop courses with proper submissions and activities, you will be awarded with the OpenLearning badges and certificates. Okay, so you can see how to get the badges and also the certificate. Okay, so before we wrap our session, we'd like to know what you think about the whole session. So please share what you think, what you like about the session, and which part was the most beneficial to you. Okay, and also we would like to get your feedback. So we want to know what you have to say about it and about us. Please let us know your thoughts by filling in this form by clicking the icon over here. Okay, so yeah, so that's about it for our journey on the OpenLearning Basic Series. You may come back into this course anytime in the future and share your experience by applying any of the strategies in the session. Feel free to come back and review the contents anytime. And I hope to see you again in other workshops or events. Feel free to, if you have any questions, feel free to let us know. And also maybe email us. Okay, I have a question by Annalisa. When will probably the ambassador badge will be rewarded? For the first 3, I have checked them. Feel free to go through your submission and see if there's any feedback. If you have passed all of that, I have given the award the badge. If you haven't, please reach out to me. You can chat me on OpenLearning or OpenLearning platform, or email me. But for the 4th one, I haven't check it out. The 5th one, I will also check it out as soon as I can. So sorry for the delay. I will try to do this as fast as I can, as soon as I can. Hope that helped. That answers your question, Annalisa. All right. Thank you for joining all of the session. I always see you on the live session as well, and I also see you on the courses early on before the session. So sorry for the delay. I'll check your submission as soon as possible. And I'll let you know if there's anything that I need more information. Okay. All right. Are there any other questions? Okay. So if there are no other questions, I think we are going to wrap up this session. I hope to see you again in other workshops or other events that we have. If you are interested to know on other events that we have, feel free to subscribe to our events calendar, which let me see, events. Our events calendar, and also we are having our OpenLearning symposium next month. Currently we haven't opened up the registration just yet, and once we do, book your slots in and join our session on the OpenLearning symposium to see what we have in our sessions. Okay. All right. If there are no questions, I'm going to end this session. Thank you everyone for joining me for this last workshop series for this year. Hopefully there's another one next year, and I will see you again in other workshops and events. Bye.